Hello students, today we are going to start My Childhood, which is chapter 6 from the book Beehive of class 9 English Literature, written by the former President of India APJ Abdul Kalam. My Childhood actually talks about some instances of the life story of APJ Abdul Kalam. So Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's life story is being projected in these beautiful stories. So let's read. Before that, let us know who this man was. So APJ Abdul Kalam, yes, APJ Abdul Kalam, whose full name was Avul Pakir Janulabdin Abdul Kalam, was born on 15th of October 1931 and died on 27 July of 2015. He was an Indian aerospace scientist who served as the 11th President of India from 2002 to 2007. He was born and raised in Rameshwaram, Tamil Nadu and studied physics and aerospace engineering. He spent the next 4 decades as a scientist and the science administrator, mainly at the Defence Research and Development Organization (DRDO) and Indian Space Research Organization (ISRO), and was intimately involved in India's civilian space program and the military missile development efforts. He thus came to be known as the Missile Man of India and for his work on the development of ballistic missile and launch vehicle technology. So apart from being an engineer, he also was known as the Missile Man of India, we see. He also played a pivotal organizational, technical and political role in India's Pokhran 2 nuclear test in 1998 and the first since the original nuclear tests in India by India in 1974. Kalam was elected as the 11th President of India in 2002 with the support of both the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party and the then opposition Indian National Congress. Widely referred to as the People's President, he returned to a civilian life of education, writing and public service after a single term. He was a recipient of several prestigious awards including the Bharat Ratna, India's highest civilian honor. While delivering a lecture at the Indian Institute of Management Shillong, Kalam collapsed and died from an apparent cardiac arrest on 27 July 2015, aged 83. Thousands, including national level dignitaries, attended the funeral ceremony held in his hometown of Rameshwaram, where he was buried with full state honors. So this was the life story of the man, and we are going to read some glimpses of this man's life story, which was set in the small zone of Rameshwaram. Now where is Rameshwaram? So Rameshwaram is connected by the Pamban bridge, so between the southernmost tip of India and Sri Lanka, in between this area, this is a small island of Rameshwaram. Okay, and this is the famous temple of Rameshwaram. So with this we are starting with our text. So let us get introduced with the text. So my childhood. So my childhood, what does my childhood talks about? So my childhood is Abdul Kalam's biography, which is titled Wings of Fire, and his biography is titled Wings of Fire, and the chapter My Childhood talks about the childhood of APJ Abdul Kalam. He was a president of India and a great scientist too. APJ Abdul Kalam talks about his upbringing, his parents and siblings, and he tells us about his friends and all those things that influenced his childhood. So he talks about a lot about his childhood in this story, which we will going to read now. Okay, so let's come to the story. Yes. So my childhood starts with the life story of APJ Abdul Kalam, and he talks about his own life. Let's see. I was born onto a middle class Tamil family in the island town of Rameshwaram. I showed you where Rameshwaram was in this island town. He was born in the erstwhile Madras state. My father, Jainuluddin, had neither much formal education nor much wealth. Despite these disadvantages, he possessed great innate wisdom and a true generosity of spirit. He had an ideal helpmate in my mother, Ahisama, and I do not recall the exact number of people she fed every day, but I am quite certain that far more outsiders ate with us than all the members of our own family put together. So this story suggests that the story of every Indian household. Now, in every Indian household, this was the status where most of the parents were actually did not receive any formal education, and family means serving more and more people. Family means more people always. So our mother served more and more people. Actually, she fed all of them, and more outsiders came. That is what the hospitality of Indians are. Okay, so this is a story which talks about the general household activity or the general life of the Indians as projected by APJ Abdul Kalam. I was one of the many children, a short boy with rather undistinguished looks, born to a tall and handsome parents. We lived in our ancestral house, which was built in the middle of the 19th century. It was a fairly large pakka house made of limestone and brick on the Mock Street in the Rameshwaram. So in the Mock Street of the Rameshwaram, they had a pakka house, means a normal house with concrete walls made of limestone and brick on the Mock Street in Rameshwaram. My austere father, means simple and severe fathers, strict father, used to avoid all inessential comforts and luxuries, and this is what he has become himself also. APJ Abdul Kalam himself avoided the luxury. When he died, after his death, we also saw that in his home there was nothing except a few coats and lot of books. There was nothing else in the room. No money, nothing. Everything was donated because that was not necessary. Only the necessities are necessary. In fact, I would say mine was a very secure childhood, both maternally and emotionally. So both emotionally and maternally, he had a very simple and easy childhood. And this is what he claims. So it was the time when the Second World War actually broke out. So the Second World War broke out in 1939 when I was 8 years old. So when he was 8 years old, the Second World War broke. For reasons I have never been able to understand, for a sudden demand of tamarind seeds erupted in the market. I used to collect the seeds and sell them to a provision shop on the Mosque Street. A day's collection would fetch me priceless sum of 1 anna. My brother-in-law Jalaluddin would tell me stories about the World War I, which would later attempt to raise in headlines of Dinamani. So Dinamani is the name of the newspaper, as we see. So during the Second World War, he did not understand why there was a sudden rise of the tamarind seeds in the market. Why there was sudden rise? Because people were making some food probably at that time, and this resulted in this sudden demand of tamarind seeds. Now this is projected in this story, and his brother-in-law as we see, his brother-in-law Jalaluddin would tell me stories about World War One. He would know the stories of World War One, and that can be found in the stories also. Our area, being isolated, was completely unaffected by the war, but soon India was forced to join the Allied forces, and something like a state of emergency was declared. Soon the state of emergency was declared. The first casualty came in the form of suspension of train halt at Rameshwaram station. The newspapers now had to be bundled and thrown out of the moving train on Rameshwaram road between Rameshwaram and Dhanuskodi. So, the first casualty came in the form of suspension of train halt, and then he understand, well, the emergency has been declared, and newspapers were thrown during this time between Rameshwaram and Dhanuskodi. That forced my cousin Samsuddin, who distributed newspapers in Rameshwaram, to look for a helping hand to catch the bundles, and as if I naturally filled the slot. Samsuddin helped me earn my first wages. Half a century later, I can still feel the surge and pride in earning my own money for the first time. So for the first time, when he earned money, what was the beauty of it? He can understand it really easily. So every child is born with some inherited characteristic. This is very important. Every child is born with some inherited characteristics. This is what APJ Abdul Kalam says: into a specific socio-economic and emotional environment and trained in certain ways by figures of authority. I inherited honesty and self-discipline from my father. From my mother, I inherited faith in goodness and deep kindness, and so did my three brothers and sister. I had three close friends in my childhood: Ramananda Shastri, Aravindan, and Shiv Prakashan. All these boys were from Orthodox Hindu Brahmin families, so we see the unity of India, the beauty of India. This is, despite being the religious differences, they were all friends. They were honest, they were self-disciplined from the beginning, and this is the greatest lessons in life. As children, none of us ever felt any difference amongst ourselves because of our religious differences and upbringing. In fact, Ramananda Shastri was the son of Prakash Lakshmi Shastri, the highest priest of the Rameshwaram temple. Later, he took over the priesthood of Rameshwaram temple. So this was the Rameshwaram temple which I showed. Rameshwaram derives its name from this famous Rameshwaram temple. So this is Rameshwaram temple. So within the small island, this is the small island of Rameshwaram. So Ramananda, in fact, Ramananda Shastri was the son of Pakshi Lakshmana Shastri, the high priest of the Rameshwaram temple. His friend was the high priest of the Rameshwaram temple, the chief priest. Imagine. Later, he took over the priesthood of the Rameshwaram temple from his father. And what happened to Aravindan? Let's see. Aravindan went to a business of arranging transport for visiting pilgrims in Rameshwaram actually, and Shiv Prakasan became a catering contractor for the Southern Railways. His friends were deviated, and what did he become? He became the missile man. He became the scientist of the DRDO, the prestigious DRDO. So during the annual Sri Sita Rama Kalyanam ceremony, our family used to arrange boats with a special platform for carrying idols for the Lord from temple to the marriage site, situated in the middle of the pond called Ramatirtha, which was near our house. So during that time of a festival of Sita Rama Kalyanam, this is the festival, and during this festival, his father used to arrange boats. So a Hindu ceremony boat is being arranged by a Muslim, and none of them felt the religious differences. None of them felt the religious dogmas. This is beauty of India. This is actually true India in true sense. Even from the Ramayana and from the life of the Prophet, where the bedtime stories my mother and grandmother would tell the children of our family, in our family, they also used to know the stories of Rama, and never ever did he felt that I am listening to Lord Rama. Why will I listen? I am a Muslim. He never felt that. That's why he can become the president of India. He was the India's man. One day when I was in the 5th standard at the Rameshwaram elementary school, a new teacher came to our class. So this is one incident that happened. A new teacher came who was biased, religiously biased teacher. I used to wear a cap which marked me as a Muslim, and I always sat in the front row next to Ramananda Shastri. So he sat to the next row to the Ramananda Shastri. Who wore the sacred thread means he was a Brahmin sitting beside a Muslim. Nothing matters in India. Actually, no religious boundaries are there. And the new teacher could not stomach a Hindu priest's son sitting with a Muslim boy in accordance with our social ranking. As the new teacher saw it, I was asked to go and sit in the back bench. Because he was a Muslim, he should sit in the back bench. A teacher is teaching that. Imagine how pathetic the situation is, how degradable the education is. And I felt very sad, and so did Ramananda Sastri. He looked utterly downcast as I shifted my seat in the last row. The image of him weeping when I shifted in the last row was a lasting impression on me. And after the school, we went home and told our respective parents about the incident, that this was the case. Lakshmana Sastri summoned the teacher and in our presence told the teacher that he should not spread the poison of social inequality and communal intolerance in the minds of innocent children. He bluntly asked the teacher to either apologize or quit the school and the island. Not only did the teacher regret his behavior, but the strong sense of conviction Lakshmana Sastri conveyed ultimately reformed this young teacher. So the young teacher was transformed. He was told immediately that he will be punished for this if you are behaving like this with the children. You are spreading the message of hatred. A teacher should not spread the message of hatred among the children. A teacher should always spread the message of love, care and bondingness. A teacher should not segregate the class on the respect of religion, but this teacher was doing that, and so he was told either to leave the island, to leave the school and go somewhere else. This was Rameshwaram. The unity was there within the small island, and this is where he became. So this was the thing. On the whole society, he talks later on that on the whole, the small society of Rameshwaram was very rigid in terms of segregation of different social groups. However, my science teacher, Shiva Subramania Iyer, though an orthodox Brahmin, a very conservative wife, was something of a rebel. He did his best to break the social barrier so that people from varying backgrounds could mingle easily. He used to spend hours with me and would say, Kalam, I want you to develop so that you are on par with the highly educated people of the big cities. So his teacher, science teacher Subramania Iyer, he was an orthodox Brahmin with a very conservative wife. That happens in a Brahmin family. So he was the one who used to break the social barriers. And one incident of breaking such social barrier is being narrated. This is very interesting. One day he invited me to his home for a meal. His wife was horrified at the idea of a Muslim boy being invited to dine in her ritually pure kitchen. She refused to serve me in her kitchen. Shiva Subramania Iyer was not perturbed. He was not disturbed, nor did he get angry with his wife, but instead he served me with his own hands and sat down beside me to eat his meal. He sat down beside us. He broke the boundary at that time. In front of his wife, he broke the boundary. That yes, I being a Brahmin can sit beside a Muslim and eat, and none of my religion will go. His wife watched us from behind the kitchen door. I wonder whether she had observed any difference in the way I ate rice, drank water, or cleaned the floor after the meal. So there was no difference. When I was leaving the house, Shiva Subramania Iyer invited me to join him for the dinner again the next weekend. Observing my hesitation, he told me not to get upset, saying, once you decide to change the system, such problems have to be confronted. When I visited his house the next week, Shiva Subramania's wife took me inside her kitchen and served me food with her own hand. So our wife later on realized, her husband taught him that don't do this thing. This is India. It doesn't matter here. So this is the breaking of the religious indifferences that we should fight. India is fighting against this religious differences. Indians are fighting. The barriers are being created by a few stupid religious leaders and political leaders. There is no barrier in total. Then the Second World War was over and India's freedom was imminent. Indians will build their own India. After the Second World War was over, India was going to build his own India, and he saw that. This man saw the new India, independent India. Indians will build their own India, declared Gandhiji. The whole country was filled with an unprecedented optimism. I asked my father for permission to leave Rameshwaram and study at the district headquarters in Ramanathapuram. So he requested his father to study in the district headquarters. And what did his father told? This is very important. He told me as if thinking aloud, Abdul, I know you have to go away to grow. Does the seagull not fly across the sun alone without a nest? The seagull also flies across the sun alone without a nest. You also have to go. He quoted Kali Gibran to my hesitant mother. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself. The children are not your children. They come through you. Yes, you might give birth to her, but not from you. They don't come from you. You may give your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. This is the most important line that a father can say. Go and explore the world. And if a father says this, then only APJ Abdul Kalam can explore. This is why he became one of the famous scientists in India. There are instances where he failed, and he never hesitated to share his stories of failure. He always told the stories of failure to get us know how success comes. And the support that he received, he always was grateful for that. So this is what APJ Abdul Kalam's life story was, that was depicted in his My Childhood, which is an extract from the famous autobiography Wings of Fire. Okay, so now let's move on to the summary. Yes. So My Childhood is an extract. So My Childhood summary. My Childhood is an extract taken from the biography of APJ Abdul Kalam, Wings of Fire. So this is, you have to remember. He was a great scientist and also the 14th President of India. He was born in a middle-class Muslim family in 1931 in the island town of Rameshwaram, Tamil Nadu. In his childhood, he was greatly influenced by his parents, his teachers and his friends. His father, Janulabdin, was not only highly educated, but he was a generous and kind person. He was not rich, but provided a secure childhood to Abdul and his siblings. Abdul inherited honesty and self-discipline from his father and faith in goodness and deep kindness from his mother. Abdul Kalam earned his first wages by working as a helping hand to his cousin Samsuddin, who distributed newspapers in Rameshwaram. In his childhood, he had three close friends, Ramananda Sastri, Aravindam and Shiv Prakash. Once, when he was in the 5th standard, a teacher asked him not to sit in the front row along with the high caste Brahmin boys. Abdul found Ramananda Sastri weeping as he went to the last row. This made a lasting impression on Abdul. Abdul was also greatly influenced by his science teacher Subramania Iyer. He learned about the lesson of breaking social barriers from him. Iyer invited him to his home for a meal. His wife refused to serve food to a Muslim boy in her pure kitchen. Iyer served him with his own hands and sat down beside him to eat his meal. He convinced his wife to serve meal with her own hands and thus was successful in changing her conservative attitude. For higher education, Abdul Kalam sought permission from his father to leave Rameshwaram and study at the district headquarters in Ramanathapuram. His father said that Abdul had a long way in life, just like a young seagull bird which flies long distances. He calmed down APJ's reluctant mother by quoting Kali Gibran's poem Your Children. He said that her children could not be dominated by her because they had her own thoughts. They did not belong to her but were a result of life's desire for itself. He asked her to give them freedom to fulfill her thoughts. Such a beautiful childhood did he have. The great man, the man who served as the President of India, was indeed a gem of India. We were greatly honored indeed to receive him as the President of India. and we will remember his works, his ideas, his words, his sayings forever as long as we will live. This is what the life of APJ Abdul Kalam was. So we did completed my childhood, which is a portion of APJ Abdul Kalam's Wings of Fire. So with this, let us end our class here. Let me end the video, students. Thank you.